This young man was focused on driving when suddenly something slammed hard into the front of his vehicle. He slammed on the brakes, his whole body drenched in sweat. At first he thought it was a dog, but on closer look, the creature resembled a goat. Strangely, this goat was slammed, flying nearly 30 feet away. Its head was cracked wide open, bleeding profusely, yet it still managed to hobble to its feet before disappearing into the nearby forest edge. Li Tianran found this extremely bizarre, but he didn't have time to dwell on it and continued driving home. As soon as he arrived, Li Han and the two dogs, Little White and Little Black, rushed out to greet him. The girl was like a little son. She kept chattering proudly about how, while her brother was away, she fed the cows grass, changed their water, and watered the vegetables. Meanwhile, Little White sneakily nibbled on some plants while following her around. After Li Han gave him a sharp knock on the head, Li Tianran smiled gently, focusing all his attention on her. So when passing by the cow pen, he didn't notice anything unusual at all, including the suddenly withered grass in the garden and the slow-moving buffalo that today seemed to have a fierce glare. With blood-red, fierce eyes, Li Tianran busied himself in the kitchen preparing dinner. Li Han was very excited, because the news said today would feature the most magnificent total solar eclipse of the century. The countdown on the TV had begun. The sun outside the window gradually got covered, the sky darkened, and suddenly the power went out inside the house. Li Han suddenly felt a chill. A cat's cry echoed from somewhere unknown, and most unsettling was snow starting to fall from the sky. This was utterly absurd. It's the middle of summer, so how could it be snowing? Li Tianran quickly urged his sister into the room and locked the door tight. Little White stayed behind to watch over her. He and Little Black went outside to lock the goats and cows in the pen. Li Han and Little Black had only taken a few steps when the snowstorm hit. Little Black looked extremely tense. By now the sun was completely obscured, but emitted strange halos of light. The wind blew bone-chilling cold. No matter how hard Li Tianran thought he couldn't explain these strange phenomena. From the withering plants, the sun, with its eerie halos, to the summer snowstorm. Suddenly, Little Black barked wildly, then lunged toward Li Tianran. Of course, it had no intention of attacking its owner. It was just that behind him stood the buffalo with those cloudy eyes from earlier. Li Tianran sensed something was wrong. He immediately dodged to the side. Little Black charged forward and bit the buffalo. But the power difference was too great. Little Black's sharp teeth only made the buffalo angrier. Li Tianran turned and ran for his life. Finally, he spotted his hunting weapon nearby. By then, Little Black had been thrown aside by the enraged buffalo. Li Tianran hurriedly raised his crossbow, firing 3 arrows that flew straight into the charging beast. Li Tianran exhaled in relief. Surely 3 arrows to the head would be fatal, right? But the truth proved him wrong. The buffalo was still alive, baring its teeth, and charging at a terrifying speed. At that moment, a virtual window appeared before Li Tianran. It displayed the remaining ammo count and the number of living entities within range. Li Tianran thought he was hallucinating. He reached out to touch his side. Yet, it was true, he had run out of ammo. The mutated buffalo was dangerously close. Li Tianran couldn't dodge in time. It slammed into him with a painful blow. Little Black anxiously rushed to his side. It gently bit Li Tianran's thigh. Then it kept barking wildly toward their house. He suddenly sensed something was off. This mad buffalo had mutated, so Li Ham was no longer safe and silent. In fact, Li Ham was in grave danger. Little White had also mutated by now. It was growling continuously at the little girl. Luckily, Li Tianran arrived just in time. He threw a rock at the dog as it tried to attack Li Tianran, hurriedly carrying Li Ham out of the house. He hadn't taken many steps when the illusionary window appeared again. That phantom appeared once more, though he didn't know what it was exactly. It was definitely not a hallucination. Li Tianran pushed Li Ham into the storage room. Just as he closed the door, Little White went berserk and scratched a hole through it. The noises outside frightened Li Ham's back to tears, and Little Black charged in at that moment. Fiercely struggling with Little White, Little Black tried to hold on a bit longer. "I'll deal with this mad buffalo and come right over." Little Black understood his owner's meaning, trying to hold back Little White. Meanwhile, Li Tianran grabbed an axe. He chopped nearby firewood, standing in front of a large tree, using his body as bait. Sure enough, the buffalo charged without hesitation, but just as it was about to ram him, Li Tianran decisively dodged to the side. The buffalo couldn't break in time. Its sharp horns plunged deep into the tree trunk. Li Tianran seized the moment. He raised the axe in his hand, but before he could swing it down, his neck was bitten deeply. Li Tianran's mind went blank. Little Black had been defeated by Little White. How had the buffalo broken free now? Without hesitation, it charged straight at Li Tianran again with its horns. This time he couldn't dodge. Li Tianran spat out a mouthful of blood. His consciousness began to fade. Suddenly a flood of noisy sounds filled his ears. Countless illusionary windows appeared with beeping noises. They displayed messages about the apocalypse survival system. Initializing. The space seemed to be encrypted. Li Tianran thought he was on the brink of death. That's why he hallucinated these things. He paid no attention to them. The only thing Li Tianran cared about now was to deal with these two beasts first. He forced himself to regain consciousness, forced his heavy body to move. Because only by defeating these two monsters could Li Ham have a chance to survive. By now, the encryption process was complete. A new notification appeared on the status window. Apocalypse survival system successfully installed. Player Li Tianran begins apocalypse participation. System display activated. His current shelter is a farming business. Shelter level 1. He can acquire the skill True Eyes. Current level is peasant and needs 8 million accumulation points to upgrade the shelter to a fortress. Li Tianran snapped awake, shocked to find he was still alive. The area where the buffalo horn had pierced his abdomen was now completely intact, although the blood stain and torn shirt remained. As for Little White and the buffalo, this segment is not yet finished. No further content available. That one had disappeared without a trace. When he sat up and looked around, he was shocked to realize something. It was Little White, lying unconscious on one side, and the buffalo was even worse off, having been cut in half by a massive force. Li Tianran was stunned. This was not a power that an ordinary human could wield. What exactly happened after he lost consciousness? To find out, we have to rewind a few minutes back. At that moment, the apocalypse system had just successfully encoded and transported Li Tianran into the end times. His identity was activated, and a huge surge of internal power was unleashed as a result. Li Tianran grabbed Little White, who was biting his neck fiercely with bare hands. Then he threw it like a baseball. As for the buffalo, he struck it once with an axe. In agony, it pulled its horn out of Li Tianran's body. His wound sealed instantly. Seizing the moment, Li Tianran gathered all his strength and struck it again, finally resulting in the current situation. These memories flooded back into Li Tianran's mind all at once, overwhelming him. To be precise, he had come dangerously close to the brink of death, but the burst of power at that moment saved his life. Now, Li Tianran faced many virtual windows. Although it was hard to believe, he had to accept that he had truly fallen into the world of the apocalypse system Manhwa. Then the system sent a new notification successfully linked to the shelter. The point accumulation store had been activated. New player rewards had been distributed, inviting the player to explore on their own. Who knew there were gifts for rookies? But before Li Tianran could open them, the first mission arrived. The first round of the apocalypse season had ended, and the second round was approaching fast. The cataclysmic disaster was about to strike. According to the system, this shelter was the only fortress he could rely on. Li Tianran's mission was simple yet challenging: to survive the apocalypse, while turning the current shelter into the strongest fortress possible. Li Tianran suddenly understood everything. The first destruction round was the land being poisoned, crops contaminated by radiation. Perhaps Little White and the buffalo both mutated after eating those tainted crops. After mutation, their bodies were enhanced, becoming unusually strong and ferocious. Li Tianran looked at Little White, gasping on the ground, even though the dog had bitten its owner. It was ultimately due to mutation. Li Tianran couldn't bear to abandon it, so he threatened it and tied up its limbs tightly. He planned to lock it up in a cage. Li Tianran entered the warehouse. It was pitch dark inside as the power system hadn't recovered after the blizzard. He started a diesel generator. As the room lit up, he saw a pair of short legs in the corner. Li Tianran's heart burned with worry as he rushed over. Luckily, Li Han was just in a deep sleep. Earlier, she had obeyed him and waited. Then, a white light swept past, which was the system's replacement mode, causing her to fall asleep like that. As soon as Li Han woke up, she asked, "Where's Little White?" Li Tianran could only lie decisively. "Little White is injured and can't be seen right now." Li Han believed her brother without hesitation. Li Nian gently tucked the girl back into the warehouse to continue sleeping, then stepped outside. He confirmed there were no other mutated creatures outside for now. It was time to start researching. Checking how this apocalypse system Manhwa worked, Li Nian opened the newbie rewards, but there was nothing special. He had hoped for some special weapon or skill. Looks like Li Nian wasn't the typical regeneration power MC. The little brat already had a 999 damage slash right from the start. Suddenly he noticed a question mark on the status window. Clicking it revealed an item shop. It seemed the accumulated points were the currency circulating in this system. He saw several seed bags that could be planted on poisoned soil, but their prices were insanely high. and newbie Li Tianyan was broke as hell. He silently calculated the situation, cutting off power and internet, guessing it would take some time. Before he could recover, it probably wasn't looking good outside either. Thinking of Xiao Bai and that mutated buffalo, Li Tianyan was sure there were countless other mutated animals outside. Suddenly an idea struck him. Li Tianyan entered the weapon storage. Not sure if he was really a farmer, but he had plenty of hot gear stashed at home. Who knows? After pondering for a moment, he grabbed a 6-shooter and then put down the walkie-talkie. Beside Li Ham, who was sound asleep, Li Tianyan drove his pickup truck along the road into the city center. Many mutated animals were lured to follow him along the way. He planned a swift strike to wipe them all out in one go, but then gunshots rang out from behind. A large truck sped past and blocked Li Tianyan's truck. On it was a massive cannon, now aimed straight at him. Li Tianyan obediently raised both hands above his head. Turns out the truck belonged to the military stationed at a nearby base. The soldier saw it was only Li Tianyan and removed the warning barriers on the road. He also guessed there was already a riot in the city. The soldier shouted at Li Tianyan, "Go back home quickly. If you need supplies, come to the government-designated point for support," because the city was no longer safe. Then he received a message on his walkie-talkie from his team, saying Zone B was under attack by a horde of mutated cats needing backup. The military truck left, and a military helicopter was dispatched overhead. It seemed the number of mutated animals was not small. Entering the city was impossible. He returned to his shelter, which was currently in a bad state. Li Tianyan had to figure out how to earn enough accumulated points to upgrade his base-building apocalypse farm items. Gritting his teeth, Li Tianyan bought several item bags from the system shop. And sure enough, they could sprout on the poisoned ground, plus the harvest time was much shorter compared to the real world. If so, as long as he earned enough points, he and Li Ham could definitely survive in this monster mutation survival apocalypse. Li Ham was very happy seeing a garden of tomatoes sprouting. Before, when she planted seeds, they all withered away. She even thought she and her brother were about to starve. Given the current situation, Li Tianyan had to carefully instruct her on a few things. Li Ham is a good kid, remembers everything after just one. Listen, don't underestimate her, she's got it all memorized. Don't eat food from outsiders. Don't give outsiders any of Big Brother's food without his permission. Big Brother isn't allowed to run outside the farm. If you spot any animals acting strange, you have to avoid them immediately. Also, watch out for Little Black, don't let him eat any junk food. Li Ham repeated her brother's instructions like a machine. Not long after the radiation-proof crops that Li Tianyan planted had ripened, the yield was also 0 yuan according to the system. These tomatoes are packed with nutrients. Eating them regularly can boost your physical strength. They can be stored for up to 30 days. Li Tianyan took a bite. It was really sweet, but the key was his whole body suddenly felt burning hot. The fatigue from the hard labor over the past few days vanished completely. In other words, in this apocalypse world where food is scarce, he not only had delicious food, but also gained extra attributes. All thanks to leveling up the crops. Clearly, the apocalypse system Manhwa wants him to become a true farm base builder. In this system, unlocking shopping privileges in the store and upgrading the shelter both rely on accumulated points. Unlocking different functions requires different amounts of points. The point exchange system is the only source of accumulated points. It mainly collects various agricultural crops, livestock, meat, minerals, and classifies them by different price tiers based on their rank. For example, the radiation-proof crops Li Tianyan is eating are the lowest tier. Higher tiers include ancient herb crops, power-enhancing crops, and the highest is the super divine enhancement tier. 1 pound of harvest from radiation-proof crops can be exchanged for 1 point. Ancient herb crops yield 100 points. Power-enhancing crops yield 1,000 points, and super divine enhancement crops yield a whopping 100,000 points. It's a full supply and collection chain. As long as he has enough points, he can turn this small farm into a top military base in no time. This made Li Tianyan extremely excited. The tomato he was holding was just the lowest tier crop. There were 3 higher tiers above it, meaning their accompanying effects would be even more insane. Thinking this, Li Tianyan turned to the garden where he planted ancient herb crops, but the harvest rate was only 10%. Looking at the patch with just a few carrots, it made Li Tianyan's heart ache. But on the bright side, these crops could eliminate negative effects like poisoning, diseases, and their shelf life was unlimited. Pretty awesome. Now he didn't have to worry about curing diseases anymore. Li Tianyan harvested all the ripe crops. He sold 70% to exchange for points, and kept the rest as food reserves. After selling to the system, Li Tianyan received 2,000 accumulated points. and earned his first achievement, Grand Master Recycler, for completing his first product sale. And the reward for him was a smart working robot. Only this robot was tiny, just about the size of his palm. Li Tianyan suddenly felt this thing was pretty useless. But the robot seemed to read his thoughts. It puffed up with pride, then jumped down from his palm. Li Tianyan's little robot started working frantically. In the blink of an eye, the remaining grass on the ground was neatly harvested and piled into stacks. Li Tianyan was stunned. How does this thing know what I'm thinking? Could it be that my consciousness is linked to the apocalypse system, Manhwa? Maybe through the system this robot directly receives commands from his mind. That's really convenient. The robot finished harvesting, wearing a proud expression. Li Tianyan didn't expect just one humanoid agricultural robot to be this powerful already. If he earns enough points to exchange for a combat robot, he won't have to worry about Li Ham's safety anymore. It's pretty useful. Li Tianyan smiled secretly. Indeed, the robot read his thoughts. It then let out a proud Bala shout. Although its language was a bit cheesy, it was kind of cute. That night, to celebrate the successful seed germination, Li Tianyan specially prepared a super huge roasted chicken feast. Li Ham and Little Black kept drooling. Before eating, Li Tianyan reminded his sister not to let outsiders know their family had food. Otherwise, he would punish her by banning her from eating for 3 days. Li Ham nodded repeatedly. Even 1 day without food was already too cruel for her. The first roasted chicken leg was given to Little Black, a reward for risking its life to protect Li Tianyan from Little White. Speaking of which, Li Ham became very proud. She still believed Little White was only injured, not knowing if it had gotten better. Li Tianyan gave a casual reply, saying Little White would recover soon. But in reality, that dog was still locked up in the attic. Its condition was far from good. Suddenly, the system alerted an intrusion attempt. The surveillance screen immediately scanned the intruder's appearance. A man around 40 years old, unarmed, threat level 3. Li Tianyan turned around stunned. Is this Uncle Nam? Why is he here? Teacher Li Tianyan went out to greet old Nam, looking a bit embarrassed. He came to ask if the farm still had leftover food. Old Nam's house was just robbed of all their food reserves. Everything was stolen, and food outside was too expensive. He had no other choice but to come borrow something to eat. Old Nam's worn-out appearance made Li Tianyan feel sympathetic. But now is the era of the base-building apocalypse. Even empathy can turn into a knife, stabbing yourself. Li Tianyan sighed apologetically, saying he didn't have much food left either. Previous supplies were spoiled due to monster mutation survival. Old Nam, he said, looking awkward. Actually, he had already visited many relatives to borrow food, but no one had any extra, so he was forced to come to someone unrelated, like Li Tianyan. Li Tianyan didn't want to see him starve. After all, old Nam had helped his family before, so he gave him a few packs of instant noodles. If I added fresh vegetables and crops, it would reveal the only thing I can share with you. It's just these instant noodle packs. Stay calm and think of another way. Good luck to you. Old man Nam happily accepted the bag of instant noodles. He kept saying thank you repeatedly, then sighed deeply, looking utterly helpless. Don't wish us luck. The way he left made Li Tianran feel heartbroken. That little bit of food could only help old man Nam's family survive a few more days, even though right now, I'm not short on supplies. But in this apocalypse system, Manhwa world, people's hearts are unpredictable. I still have to hide some fresh green veggies in the fridge that haven't been irradiated. I don't even need to use them. Li Tianran planned to quietly bring some to old man Nam's house at night. So that evening Li Tianran drove with Li Han to old man Nam's place. In Li Han's memory, he was a very warm person who often helped the two siblings. His house even had an older brother who frequently gave her candy. When they arrived at old man Nam's neighborhood, it was eerily quiet all around. Not even a single dog bark, probably because they had already dealt with all the mutated zombie animal outbreak livestock out of fear. Li Tianran stopped the car not far from old man Nam's house. As he was about to sneak the food inside, he heard a terrified scream. My son, little Tian, what's wrong? Don't scare your dad. Along with old man Nam's shout came a persistent coughing fit like tuberculosis. Li Tianran stealthily glanced through the window. He saw old man Nam's son coughing up blood non-stop. These symptoms were exactly like those who ate radiation-contaminated vegetables. Could it be that old man Nam's family already finished the food I gave them so quickly? Suddenly an idea flashed in Li Tianran's mind. This kid seemed like the perfect test subject. Whether the carrots from my ancient herbal stash could help him survive depended entirely on his fate. After the violent coughing fit, old man Nam helped his son lie down on the bed. He kept cursing the hospital doctors as quacks. Old man Nam had taken his son to the hospital before, but they said there were no beds left. and even if there were, they couldn't cure him. His son was coughing so hard that tears and snot were streaming down. His eyes seemed about to pop out. They had arrived. Just then, the glass window of Old Man Nam's house shattered from a large bag being thrown in. "Who the hell threw this into my house? Get out of here," Old Man Nam yelled furiously. But his son sensed something unusual about the bag. Old Man Nam opened it. His eyes immediately sparkled. It was fresh food, and inside was a note. Wrapped inside was a small carrot. On the paper was written, "If you don't want him to die, feed him this." At first, Old Man Nam thought it was some bizarre prank. Going to a big hospital couldn't cure his son's illness, so what could a carrot possibly do? His son was hanging by a thread. Now clean vegetables meant nothing to Old Man Nam anymore. The young man's vision blurred. He struggled to hold Old Man Nam's hand. "Dad, I've thought it through. Lying here means I'm going to die anyway. I want to keep living." Old Man Nam wiped his tears. After all, the hospital couldn't cure him. "I want to keep living." Old Nam wiped away his tears. After all, the hospital couldn't cure him. He couldn't just stand by and watch his son die right in front of him. So Old Nam treated that carrot like his last straw. He helped his son up and fed him a few bites. Unexpectedly, after swallowing, the boy named Xiao Tian let out a scream, then vomited even more blood. Old Nam grew more frantic. But after vomiting, Xiao Tian's complexion turned rosy. His body gradually regained strength. Old Nam's eyes welled up with tears of joy. "That's great, my son. That's great." Li Tianran knew his carrot really worked, and couldn't hide his satisfied smile. At that moment, the overhead light flickered on. Power had been restored, so the phone signal should come back soon. He immediately pulled out his phone to call Zhong Lin, but all he got was endless busy signals. Zhong Lin's phone was unreachable. Li Tianran thought she was still mad at him, unaware that Zhong Lin had been kidnapped by two men. Li Tianran and Li Han headed home. On the way, Li Han kept exclaiming, "My brother is amazing." Xiao Tian had just vomited a lot of blood, looked pale, but after eating a carrot he was already recovering. The girl kept chattering non-stop, when suddenly something slammed hard against the car roof. Through the windshield, bloodshot eyes peered down. It was a mutated gorilla. Li Tianran warned Li Han to hold tight. He activated his Hell Highway skill and started driving, aiming to fling the gorilla off the roof. But the gorilla was tougher than he expected. Out of options, Li Tianran pulled out his gun, fired through the roof. As the gorilla fell, Li Tianran hit the gas, ramming it hard again. The gorilla slammed into a rock. Li Tianran made sure with another bullet. The gorilla was finally dead, but what surprised him most was the number 05 on its left shoulder. What did that number mean? Where did this mutated gorilla come from? There were no farms or zoos nearby. This was really strange. Li Tianran and Li Han returned home. He told Li Han to watch cartoons downstairs while he had something to handle. That something was Xiao Bai up in the attic. Xiao Bai was still in a frenzy. Li Tianran sighed carefully, put on thick gloves, then forced Xiao Bai to eat an ancient medicinal carrot. Li Tianran believed that after eating it, Xiao Bai would recover like before, but after eating the carrot, Xiao Bai grew even more ferocious. While the thunderstorm outside intensified, Li Han, watching cartoons, started getting scared and ran to find Li Tianran. Finally, reaching the attic, she saw Li Tianran sitting motionless. She tiptoed over to scare him, but froze at the sight. Xiao Bai lay still on the floor, blood pooling from its mouth, nose, and eyes. Li Han was so shocked she fainted. Li Tianran hurriedly shook her awake. Li Han sobbed repeatedly, asking, why Li Tianran said Xiao Bai would recover soon. But now the dog was like this. Li Tianran tried to comfort her. His ancient medicinal carrot couldn't save Xiao Bai. Animals had mutated. Little White passed away on a stormy, rainy day like that. Li Ham cried for 7 straight days. The girl didn't want Little White to leave like that, but Li Tian didn't know what else to do besides holding her tightly. Li Tian carefully buried Little White under the biggest tree in the farm. The weather started to get cold, so he took Li Ham back home, but since then she became really quiet, even though Li Tian made lots of delicious food. Even playing the best cartoons didn't interest Li Ham, so he told Little Black to stay and keep her company. Meanwhile, he went out to harvest the radiation-proof crops he had just planted this time. He harvested a full 1,100 pounds of radiation-grade agricultural produce and 22 pounds of ancient medicinal crops, able to harvest so quickly. It was all thanks to the farming robot. Li Tian immediately converted them into accumulation points. The old small hut he used as a warehouse on the farm was also upgraded to a common level 2 large hut. This was a good start. But then the system immediately notified him, because the defense rank points of the shelter of Li Tianyan's current base could only defend against small-sized animals. The risk rate was very high. So the system suggested he quickly establish a defense system. He felt this made sense. He needed to improve the farm's safety coefficient first, but with the current level of agricultural crops, the accumulation points increase wasn't very high, so expanding production might be delayed. Nevertheless, he still used accumulation points to upgrade the farm's surrounding wall to level 2, and also bought additional walls, electric nets and patrol radars too. The remaining accumulation points were running low. He planned to buy some robots for Li Ham. For combat protection, he saw a robot dog, but it cost a whopping 3,500 accumulation points, which he didn't have enough of. Seeing there was still quite a bit of food in storage, Li Tianyan quietly calculated that selling some wouldn't cause much loss. Accumulation points could be earned back. But Li Ham's safety couldn't just be postponed, so he bought a level 1 combat robot shaped like a hummingbird. It had an attack weapon, a gun loaded with 100 bullets, along with a level 2 combat robot. Shaped like a hunting dog, this robot dog could incinerate, shoot, or bite to attack enemies. Li Tianyan tested the hummingbird robot's combat ability by ordering it to attack a falling leaf. Immediately, the hummingbird fired a bullet that pierced the leaf. Li Tianyan was very satisfied. This thing would handle aerial patrol and sniping. He then ordered the hunting dog robot to blow up a large rock. The dog opened its mouth and unleashed a super powerful attack. The rock instantly exploded. Li Tianyan was even more pleased. It seemed the firepower and ground patrol were solid now. This time he could truly rest easy. Li Tianyan brought the 2 robots inside. Li Ham was still very down. The hunting dog robot gently rubbed her head. Its gentle demeanor eased some of Li Ham's sadness. From now on, it would follow and protect her. Let's name it. How about calling it Little White? What do you think? Li Ham nodded with teary eyes in agreement. So his worries were somewhat resolved. Back in the city center, Leung Tianvu, the director of Tiannuan Pharmaceutical Company, was listening to his subordinates' reports. It seemed they were testing some kind of specimen. Although the details of the operation were unclear, judging by Leung Tianvu's smug expression, it was definitely not something good. Just as Leung Tianvu was basking in his pride, Nyum Tio, the deputy director of Tianhuan, stormed in angrily. Despite being his subordinate, she bluntly called that Leung guy a pig brain. This was about Leung Tianvu refusing to support Qian's donation of medical equipment to the current hospitals. The entire southern city's healthcare system had already collapsed. Nyum Tio believed that since they headed a pharmaceutical company, they should actively cooperate and support the hospitals. That's what should be done, but instead, Leung Tianvu was pouring all his energy into some kind of research on mutated animals. Deputy Nyum, this is the CEO's office. Do you think it's appropriate to barge in like this without permission? Leung Tianvu sharply criticized Nyum Tio. He didn't hesitate to make his stance clear. Leung Tianvu was a businessman. All his actions were driven by profit. Even in this apocalypse system Manhwa scenario, he had no interest in charity by supporting hospitals since it wouldn't bring him any benefit. Instead, he focused on researching mutated animals. If he could find a solution, the profits would be enormous. Leung Tianvu wanted to use this potential profit to lure Nyum Tio, since she was a major shareholder and would receive dividends. So this means Leung's research had made some progress, right? Even the VM Hoang federal government had no news about any special cure research. Then I'll have to visit the laboratory myself, Nyum Tio said with a fake smile. While she spoke with Leung Tianvu, the small ring around her neck kept emitting faint beeping sounds. Leung Tianvu put on a fake smile, claiming his research couldn't have advanced that quickly. He began trying to recruit Nyum Tio to cooperate with him, with a bit more manpower. The project's progress would definitely speed up. Nyum Tio nodded, saying she would visit the lab later to check on progress. After all, she had to evaluate the project's feasibility before agreeing to cooperate. You're very welcome. I'll arrange for an assistant to accompany you. Leung Tianvu nodded and quickly ushered Nyum Tio out. She left his office. Her superior immediately followed. It turned out the ring around Nyum Tio's neck was a scanner. But her technical team said her time in Leung Tianvu's office was too short, so they could only perform a simple scan. However, the secret laboratory's entrance might not be there. In the office, a researcher under Leung Tianvu had also been detained by her, but he refused to reveal anything. They only managed to get the access card to the secret lab. Still, the entrance hadn't been found. Nyum Tio thought for a long time, except for Leung Tianvu's office. Where could the entrance possibly be? She felt the most dangerous place was always the quietest one. Suddenly, a thought flashed in Yum's mind. She decided to follow Boy Tu, an underling of Luong Tin Vu. He was the one responsible for explaining and guiding Yum through the laboratory tour this time. He led her to a gorilla labeled number 7, then introduced it as an experimental subject. The only one not driven mad among the recent test subjects. Its strength could multiply exponentially. Although unlike the brainless bloodthirsty monsters, it was still unstable and definitely a bit aggressive. Boitu was enthusiastically explaining. Just then, another lab staff member rushed in. He whispered something into Boitu's ear. Boitu's expression immediately changed. How could this happen? We really can't handle this. Sir, you need to come see this now. Boitu then turned to Num with an apologetic face. Due to the emergency, he couldn't continue the tour. Instead, Boitu called another colleague to take over. Num said it wasn't necessary. She could wander around and explore on her own. At first, Boitu was reluctant, afraid it might break protocol. But the area was under constant surveillance, and Boitu's subordinate kept urging him, so he left Num alone there. As soon as Boitu left, Num touched her earpiece, always hidden beneath her long hair. On the other end was a technician who had just received orders. He scanned the lab quickly, then discovered a secret entrance to the northeast. There was a hollow spot on the wall that could be pressed down. Nyum followed the instructions and indeed found the entrance. As she stepped inside, the sight before her startled her. Inside, the glass cages were all human test subjects. Indeed, compared to their predictions, Luong Tin Vu's project was far more cruel. She stopped in front of the largest glass cage. Inside was a woman with a mermaid tail. Her body was covered in wounds and stitches. Nyum couldn't hold back and let out a curse. She turned back to Li Thin. At that moment he was harvesting radioactive corn with Li Ham, then even grilled buttered corn for the girl to eat. Recently, Li Ham seemed to be eating quite a lot. It was probably because the crops harvested from the agricultural plants could enhance physical strength. And after physical growth, the need for nutritional supplements also increased significantly. Li Ham was at a growing age. Eating more was understandable. While the girl ate her fill, Li Thin checked her attribute stats a bit. Since eating the radioactive vegetables, both his and Li Ham's stats had increased considerably. He only worried that if she kept eating like this, Li Ham might turn into a diamond doll, but worrying wouldn't change anything. Seeing Li Ham eat happily, he already felt joy. With a shelter like this, no matter how big Li Ham's appetite got like Luffy's, he would have enough resources to support her. While she was still eating her fill, the system notified him that a visitor was approaching the shelter. He glanced at the surveillance screen and saw it was Tio Tien this time, carrying a bag of food filled with the same items he had brought over the day before. Li Tianyin went out to greet Tio Tien. A clear look of joy appeared on your face. It seems like you've fully recovered, Brother Xiao Li. 2 days ago, he gave my family some instant noodles. My father told me to come here to express our gratitude. My family just got some food supplies, so I came to give them to you. Li Tianran forced a smile, knowing that the food his family had was clearly brought by him. But anyway, this just proves that old Nam's family truly are good people. It means I wasn't wrong about them. Still, he pretended to be clueless and asked, "Where did your family get the food from?" Xiao Tian said he found these supplies in the yard. It seemed like some kind-hearted person quietly brought them over. So Xiao Tian came here to repay the kindness, saying that he scratched his head awkwardly and said he had another favor to ask. Li Tianran said, "I heard that a food trading post just opened on the outskirts of South City. There are still quite a few goods in stock. Can I borrow your car and stop by there to buy some stuff?" Li Tianran agreed immediately without hesitation, but Xiao Tian started to hesitate. He said he didn't have a driver's license, and the food trading post was in a pretty remote area. Li Tianran sighed. Clearly he wanted to borrow not just the car, but the driver too. Actually, Li Tianran had been super busy at the farm these past few days. He originally planned to check out the food trading post in 2 days. If he could give Xiao Tian a ride now, it would be convenient. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Now the house had 2 security robots, plus Little Black. Li Han was alone, so he could rest easy. That's why Li Tianran reluctantly agreed to take Xiao Tian along, just as long as they got back before noon, to cook for Li Han. Seeing this, Xiao Tian was visibly thrilled. Li Tianran went to get the car. Then he reminded Li Han not to open the door for anyone, and especially not to let anyone see inside. Little Bai and the hummingbird robot kept repeating these warnings, which annoyed Li Han. As soon as she heard Xiao Tian was coming, she hurriedly climbed into the car, wanting to visit him. Li Tianran reluctantly let her get in. Unexpectedly, as soon as she saw Xiao Tian, she couldn't keep her mouth shut. "Brother Xiao Tian, how's your health?" Li Tianran quickly flicked Li Han's head and then tossed her out of the car. Along the way, Xiao Tian stayed silent. Li Tianran felt uneasy. When Li Han asked that, he wondered if Xiao Tian had noticed anything strange. Sure enough, not long after they started driving, Xiao Tian asked brother Xiao Li, "Is it okay to leave Han Han home alone? Things are chaotic now. I'm afraid some bad people might target the farm." "Wouldn't Han Han be in danger? That rundown farm has no money and no food. Who would even pay attention to it?" Li Tianran laughed it off, but Xiao Tian wasn't ready to give up. He kept asking, "Didn't Li Tianran leave any self-defense weapons for Li Han?" Li Tianran shook his head. Li Han is only 6 years old. Even if she had weapons, she wouldn't be able to use them. But deep down, he didn't think that way. With Little Bai and the hummingbird robot guarding what place could be safer than the farm, the only thing was the farm gate was electrified. So no one can just barge in, you don't have to worry. Haha, then I can rest easy. Little Tian forced a smile. Then he took out his phone to text something. This caught Li Tianran's attention. Seeing this, Xiao Tian immediately put his phone away. He even used the excuse that he was afraid he didn't have enough money, so he borrowed a little from a friend. But his unusual attitude still couldn't escape Li Tianran's sharp eyes. Meanwhile, Li Han was happily watching cartoons at home with Xiao He. On the TV was a show about the Rainbow Squad, whose members could evolve from a dull yellow to a shining golden yellow. Suddenly, she remembered that Xiao Tian's older brother also changed color. Then, she innocently asked Xiao He, "Hey Xiao He, could it be that brother Xiao Tian is also a member of the Rainbow Squad?" Xiao He obviously didn't know how to answer, he could only bark in response. But Li Han did see Xiao Tian change color, the last time the two cousins sneaked over to old Nam's house. She even saw Xiao Tian turn green, but this time he had turned red. Hearing Xiao Tian say this, Li Tianran took out a roll of savings. He didn't have much money himself. "Use this money for now." Xiao Tian didn't dare accept it. He kept shaking his head and waving his hands. Li Tianran had gone out of his way to drive him all the way here. How could he have the face to take money from him? But Li Tianran insisted on pressing the money into Xiao Tian's hands, making him feel extremely awkward. Xiao Tian held the stack of cash and stammered that he would definitely repay this kindness. Li Tianran drove along the winding road following Google Maps' directions. He kept turning left, then right, while Xiao Tian sitting beside him grew increasingly restless. Until the car was about to turn right again, suddenly Xiao Tian reached out and blocked Li Tianran's steering wheel. "Brother Xiao Li, it seems the road on the right is blocked and impassable. Let's take a detour to the left." Judging by this expression and attitude, Xiao Tian was definitely hiding something. Li Tianran still followed his advice. After driving a bit further, he stopped and bluntly questioned, "How does he know the right road is blocked?" Since he often traveled this route, it was also the town's main road. Unless there was a major natural disaster, it couldn't be blocked. Xiao Tian seemed flustered, finally admitting that a friend had told him this. Li Tianran decided to interrogate him thoroughly. He demanded Xiao Tian call that friend so he could talk to him, but Xiao Tian refused. His demeanor grew more urgent. "Don't ask anymore. I won't harm you. Just go quickly now. If we're late, it will be too late." Xiao Tian pleaded with the most earnest tone. "Please trust me just this once." Li Tianran clicked his tongue, then stepped on the gas and continued down the left turn road. At this moment, a few strange men sitting in another car were going wild, because Xiao Tian had a GPS tracker on him. His mission was to lure Li Tianran to the place. They were waiting, but Xiao Tian betrayed them at the last minute, driving them crazy. However, the Nam guy behind this had already prepared. Seeing Li Tianran's car go off route, he immediately called his comrades. "The target is heading your way. Remember, you must stop him." Boss Luong ordered them to keep him alive. Then he ordered his subordinates to turn their vehicles around. The two cars split and surrounded from front and back. Today he was determined to capture Li Tianyan no matter what. Meanwhile, inside the car, he was trying to pressure Tu Thien to reveal the truth of the situation at all costs. Under Li Tianyan's pressure, he could only cry loudly and kept saying, I'm sorry for betraying you. I was led astray by demons, but I had no other choice. They took my father away." So Tu Thien kept stammering and couldn't continue. Li Tianyan forced him to calm down. He kept asking who they were and what they wanted, but Tu Thien seemed extremely panicked. Finally, he revealed that those people were from Thien Nguyen Pharmaceutical Company. They knew Li Tianyan had the antidote, so they forced Tu Thien to lure him out of the base. And while he was away, they planned to kidnap Li Ham and force Li Tianyan to obey them. Hearing this, Li Tianyan was both shocked and furious. He never thought they'd sniff him out so early. And he definitely didn't expect Thien Yuan to be so despicable as to use a 6-year-old child as a threat. Tu Thien kept crying non-stop. He didn't want to betray someone as good as Li Tianyan, but Thien Yuan used his father's life to blackmail him. So, he had no choice but to do such a lowly thing. But even so, Li Tianyan couldn't bring himself to forgive him. Before he could come up with a plan, he noticed someone chasing from behind. Seeing this, Tu Thien panicked even more. The louder he cried, the more irritated Li Tianyan became. Shut up. So those questions you asked me earlier were just to probe me, right? To replace those bastards and checking if my farm is protected, and just now you used your phone to report to them, didn't you? Meanwhile, Lai Ham was leisurely at home eating chips and watching cartoons. But Tu Hak lying next to her caught a strange scent and heard suspicious noises. The Thien Nguyen people had even brought excavators, ready to tear apart Li Tianyan's farm. I'm sorry, brother, you have to give them the antidote quickly. Even now, Tu Thien still didn't understand the gravity of the situation, begging Li Tianyan to hand over the antidote. He believed that with so many people from Thien Yuan, Li Tianyan definitely couldn't fight back. Li Tianyan was filled with contempt for this young man. He had helped him so much, even saved his life from the brink of death, but in the end, he was stabbed in the back. His hands clenched the steering wheel tightly. Meanwhile, Tu Thien kept crying and begging non-stop. Li Tianyan hadn't had time to settle things with him, but unfortunately those who dared to touch Li Ham would never leave the farm alive. He recalled that after eating that carrot, both Lao Nam and Tu Thien were extremely shocked, though happy they couldn't believe Tu Thien had truly survived. He ended up like that because he randomly ate an apple that looked clean in the cellar. In the past few days, they had only eaten porridge to fill their stomachs, so Tu Thien wanted to take a gamble. Lao Nam wasn't so concerned. He only knew that suddenly his home had a ton of food falling from the sky, even including miraculous medicine. He might still be able to save his son's life. Old Nam believed that surely some divine power couldn't bear to see little Tian suffer like that, so it saved him. But little Tian didn't believe in gods. If they truly existed, the world wouldn't have had to endure this apocalypse. He knew someone had given them these supplies, but that person just didn't want to reveal their identity. Yet little Tian felt no gratitude. All he could think about was how huge that food bag was. Whoever gave them so much food must have had plenty of supplies. While his family had only ever endured hunger and thirst to survive, it was just too unfair. Thinking about this, suddenly little Tian remembered something. Despite just recovering, he rushed over to the neighbor's house. The Miao family were startled to see little Tian covered in blood. He went there to check the surveillance camera at Mr. Miao's place. They had a security camera mounted on the antenna pole on the roof. Little Tian even lied, saying his house was robbed and the thief beat him up like this. Mr. Miao immediately showed little Tian the footage. It only captured the scene at the alley entrance to little Tian's house, and Li Tianran's car accidentally appeared in the frame. Little Tian returned home and told his father he had found out that the one who saved him was Mr. Li, the owner of a nearby farm. The time Li drove past and left perfectly matched the time little Tian was rescued. Old Nam was overjoyed to hear this. So it turned out Mr. Li was a good person, not only giving them food, but also saving his son's life. But little Tian didn't share his father's view. Dad, did you know that the Tian Run Corporation is offering a reward for special antidote drugs? Damn it. What do you want to do? Old Nam immediately knew his son had no good intentions. But little Tian said he just wanted to make things a little easier for the two of them in this hellish world. The food Li Tianran gave wouldn't last long, and once it ran out, they'd be starving again. Old Nam, foaming at the mouth with anger, slapped his son hard. He couldn't stand his son's ungrateful attitude. How could he have given birth to someone less than a beast? If you dare go, I'll break both your legs, got it. But little Tian was stubborn. Didn't his father understand the situation yet? If you want to survive, you have to rely on yourself. No one will save you. The outcome was predictable. Little Tian still went to report to Tian Run Corporation. This eventually led to the current situation. Li Tianran's car was being tailed closely, impossible to shake off, and the road ahead was blocked by two other vehicles. Li Tianran had no choice but to brake. Not wanting a collision, he grabbed little Tian as a shield and stepped out of the car. The other side's person got out immediately as well. He smiled slyly and spoke first. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Chen Yan, from Tianrun Pharmaceuticals. This meeting is a bit unusual, but has no other intentions. I know you have a drug that treats poisoning cases, so I wanted to discuss a cooperation deal with you. Tranham bluntly proposed that Li Tianyan provide the medicine, while Thien Huan's side would handle distribution. Both sides cooperating would be mutually beneficial, and the profits would definitely not be bad. What if I refuse? The tough young man, Li Tianyan, spoke up. Tran Nam didn't come here to beg. He gave Li Tianyan two choices. 1. Voluntarily cooperate with Thien Wan, everyone gets along, and you just smile and count the money. 2, they reluctantly use force to make you reveal the formula. As soon as he finished speaking, a few guys pulled out daggers. Slowly advancing Li Thien, Nien knew they didn't have guns, so he relaxed a bit. Little Thien was useless to them now. If they had guns, it would be a different story. He calmed down and began to respond to Tran Nham. I just happened to get this medicine by chance, originally meant to keep it for emergencies, but it ended up swallowed by that guy. I'm truly sorry for wasting your trip. Tran Nham obviously didn't believe his words. He mocked Li Thien Nien. You haven't cried until you see the coffin. Tran Nham had completely turned hostile. He called his accomplices nearby. They had already reached the farm gate. Then Tran Nham ordered them to capture Li Ham. Then feed the girl poisoned fruit. Li Thien Nien's electric fence. It had no effect on these bastards at all, because Thien Nguyen's side easily found seasoned electrical engineers. Before confronting Thien Nguyen, better check if you're worthy first. Now just cooperate obediently. Tran Nham hadn't finished his sentence when he stopped, because Li Thien Nien's fierce gaze was terrifying. He felt it was absurd. How could a farmer who spends all year growing vegetables have such a threatening look? Could it be he had something that made him confident enough to beat Thien Nguyen? Or what I hate being threatened the most? You should be glad you haven't stumbled into the farm yet. At least there you might survive a little longer. Tran Nham reassured himself that they had numbers on their side. Nothing to fear. He thought Li Thien Nien was just bluffing to intimidate. Now, he started using Li Ham's life to threaten, but Li Thien Nien showed no sign of fear. Seeing this, Tran Nham ordered, "Have all my men rush in at once, cut off his limbs, just keep him alive." At the farm, Thien Nguyen's men began using excavators to break down the perimeter wall. Li Ham was so frustrated she couldn't even watch cartoons in peace anymore. Meanwhile, her brother had already jumped into a fight with those bastards. One guy charged forward but was kicked away by Li Thien Nien. Tran Nham was shocked. What kind of strength is this? Far beyond the capability of an ordinary person. Meanwhile, a man watching from afar, the supervisor of Li Thien Nien's farm, also found it strange. The rocks were blown apart by Li Ham. Using binoculars from a great distance, he couldn't see the mechanism clearly, but guessed it was caused by explosives. Using binoculars from a great distance, he couldn't see the mechanism clearly, but guessed it was caused by explosives. Back to Li Thien Nien, he seemed to be really enjoying this brawl. He never expected the physical enhancement effect of the anti-radiation food to be so powerful. He had only been eating it for a few days, but his stats had already increased quite a bit, not just strength and speed, even his endurance and neural reaction speed were improved. Li Thien Nien was punching and hitting just to test his body's data, not wasting time with these idiots. Thinking that, Li Thien Nien jumped back a bit, then pulled a 6-shooter out of his pocket. Tran Nham immediately broke out in a cold sweat. He had been too careless, thinking Li Thien Nien only carried a crappy hunting rifle. Who would have guessed he brought a 6-shooter when leaving the farm? Seeing that, using force seemed risky, Tran Nham started to mentally intimidate this kid. The big boss behind me isn't someone you want to mess with. If you touch me, the consequences will be unimaginable. Fair enough, Li Thien Nien said thoughtfully, then decisively pulled the trigger. Then you're still useful, but the others don't need to stick around. Li Thien Nien's bullets hit Tran Nham henchman directly. Even Tran Nham got grazed by a bullet, losing part of his ear. It was a gruesome sight. Seeing most of his men knocked out, Tran Nham panicked and tried to flee into the forest, waiting for Li Thien Nien to run out of ammo. But life isn't that easy. Just as Tran Nham thought Li Thien Nien was out of bullets because the gunfire stopped, Li Thien Nien opened his inventory through a virtual window and pulled out another gun. Damn, you still got another one. Tran Nham ground his teeth in helplessness. 2 gunshots rang out simultaneously. One was Li Thien Nien shooting Tran Nham, and the other far away was the hummingbird robot continuously blasting holes in the heads of the Thien Nguyen guys trying to break in because its little master Li Ham wanted to mark those bad guys, so it had to follow orders, giving each one a copper candy. A pile of Thien Nguyen men lay shot down outside the farm's perimeter wall. Li Ham feared her brother would hate her for being such a violent kid when he returned and saw this scene. She was determined not to let Li Thien Nien discover this massacre. First, she had to deal with the threats outside. Sorry, I shouldn't have used a kid to threaten you. That was my mistake. Please don't torture me anymore. Tran Nham was desperately begging Li Thien Nien for mercy. He claimed he had revealed everything he knew, but Li Thien Nien had no intention of sparing him. He gave Tran Nham 2 choices. 1, a quick trip to the morgue, or 2, he would treat all his wounds and then continue to torment him. After all, whether time or ammo, Li Thien Nien had plenty to spare. Everyone fears pain, so of course Tran Nham chose the first option. And to have the smoothest exit possible, he had to answer everything Li Thien Nien wanted to know. The first question was about the boss behind Tran Nam. He didn't dare hide it, and immediately revealed it was Luong Thien Vu. Li Thien Nian wasn't surprised. That bastard always tried to jack up the price of medicine. No wonder they resorted to such ruthless tactics just to turn a profit. The second question is about Luong Thien Vu's accomplices. But Tran Nam shook his head stubbornly. That scoundrel was acting alone. All information was tightly sealed off. Except for those who directly took action like Tran Nam. Even the executive board had no clue. Moreover, recently, Luong Thien Vu had disagreements with Vice President Nhum Tio, and the VP was trying to use headquarters to force Luong Thien Vu out of Nam City. This was news to Li Thien Nian. He hadn't expected it. Tien Nguyen Pharmaceutical was just a subsidiary. At this point, Tran Nam began slipping into unconsciousness. After getting smacked hard by him, he woke up and continued answering. Luong Thien Vu had reported this matter to headquarters. Not yet. Of course, this was about whether Li Thien Nian had an antidote. Tran Nam answered no. Because Vice President Nhum Tio seemed to have backing at headquarters, Luong Thien Vu didn't dare to report the intelligence. He feared the news would leak to Nhum Tio and ruin his plans. Li Thien Nian breathed a sigh of relief. Since the news hadn't spread yet, handling this problem was still pretty easy. He then asked Tran Nam to do one last thing, that was to take him to meet Luong Thien Vu face to face. Tran Nam didn't dare refuse. He immediately called his boss. Luong Thien Vu thought the mission was already complete, but Tran Nam had to lie that Li Thien Nian wanted to meet directly with President Luong before he'd reveal anything. Luong Thien Vu agreed and arranged to meet at warehouse number 78. After the invitation card was laid out clearly with time and place, Li Thien Nian asked Tran Nam to wear his clothes. He wore Tran Nam's clothes, and Tio Thien wore a black suit. Wearing sunglasses to disguise himself as a subordinate, Tran Nam was roughly bandaged to cover his face. Then Li Thien Nian tied him up and took him to warehouse 78. There Luong Thien Vu was already waiting with old man Nam tied up beside him. Seeing Tio Thien in that outfit, he got excited. "You're here. Why is it just you, Tran Nam, and that kid Tio Thien?" The informant wasn't clear. He didn't recognize the badly beaten man as Tran Nam. Tio Thien said the informant had been knocked unconscious and was lying in the car. Tran Nam was kicked out and had to run to the bathroom. Fearing Luong Thien Vu needed the info urgently, he came to deliver it first. Then, Luong Thien Vu looked at the tied-up man. It was clearly Tran Nam, but beaten so badly he was unrecognizable. Even after being beaten to a pulp, he still refused to talk. Looks like they still weren't cruel enough. Luong Thien Vu got excited. "Hey kid, if you confess, I'll let this old man go." Old man Nam was gagged with tape but struggled to speak. He didn't want Li Thien Nian to get involved because of him. Besides, even if he revealed the cure, those bastards definitely wouldn't let them leave alive. Seeing old man Nam tied up tight but still struggling, Luong Thien Vu lost patience and kicked him. Tio Thien trembled at the sight. But he quickly forced himself to calm down, because Luong Thien Vu ordered the tied man to be brought closer. "What a useless bunch, everything has to be done with brute force. I haven't even had a chance to speak yet." Luong Thien Vu just took a straight shoe kick to the face. He shouted "Frog brother," and then fell to the ground, leaving his two henchmen stunned. It was clear that the one who kicked him was Li Thien Nian. He had sneaked in by climbing over the wall. Now that he had successfully subdued Luong Thien Vu at gunpoint, the two lackeys immediately panicked. But they didn't dare move, fearing their boss would pull the trigger silently. Luong Thien Vu was completely clueless. He thought Tran Nam had betrayed him, but even pinned under the gun, Luong Thien Vu still kept his mouth shut stubbornly. "Damn it, don't mess with me. You'll regret this." Li Thien Nian sighed. Someone with the intelligence of a pea like this. Yet he managed to run Tien Yuan. Clearly his strengths were all focused on these dirty tricks. "And your loyal henchman is over there," Li Thien Nian reminded him warmly. Only then did Luong Thien Vu pay attention. The guy who was beaten up looking neither human nor beast really did resemble Tran Nam. Only then did he realize he'd been tricked. But his mouth was still tough. He kept threatening Li Thien Nian. "If you dare touch me, my henchman will gut old Nam too." Li Thien Nian laughed heartily. Trading your life for someone you neither like nor care about is still a sweet deal. Luong Thien Vu didn't expect to face such a reckless guy, and his two henchmen were also confused, not knowing what to do. While they were all panicking like grasshoppers, 2 shots from Li Thien Nian took their lives. Truly, a bunch of clueless fools. Little Thien faced no more obstacles. He rushed right beside his father, and Li Thien Nian didn't hesitate anymore. He pulled the trigger enthusiastically, giving Luong Thien Vu a copper bullet straight through the temple. Old Nam and his son knelt before Li Thien Nian, both to thank and to apologize. Old Nam was deeply ashamed. Given what little Thien had done, Li Thien had no intention of forgiving him. He just didn't want to be involved with him anymore from now on. Once everything was settled, the father and son voluntarily helped Li Thien clean up the battlefield. After all, this warehouse was in a remote area. Even if they destroyed all evidence, no one would come looking here. But when old Nam dragged Tran Nam, he suddenly struggled. That bastard was still alive, and in his hand was a sharp shard of pottery. Old Nam wasn't paying attention and got stabbed in the thigh. He fell down in pain. Tran Nam knew he had no way out, so he wanted to take someone down with him. Anyone would do to go down to the underworld with him, and the unlucky target was old Nam. But when Tran Nam drove the shard down 5 levels, little Thien rushed forward to block it with his body. Right after that, Li Tianyin rammed Tran Nam with his car. This time, he really wouldn't survive. Li Tianyin got out of the car. Little Thien had the shard lodged straight into his heart. He tried to use his last bit of strength to confess to Li Tianyin. Old Nam trembled as he held his son. Boss, little Li, your brother was right. You really are a failure. You can't be a good person nor a bad one. Because of your greed, you pushed your own father into danger. You deserve this. Consider this life returned to me. Little Thien laughed, mocking himself. He trembled as he handed Li Tianyin a candy, asking him to take it back to thank his sister. This was originally Li Ham's tucked away in the food bag the other day. This was probably the most reasonable and peaceful ending for Tio Tien, because if he had lived, he would have carried that torment with him for life. After Tio Tien took his last breath, old Nam took the shard of pottery and went to see Trin Nam. After venting his anger, old Nam helped Li Tianyin set fire to the warehouse. Then the two left. Tears soaked the weathered face of the middle-aged man. The next day, subordinates hurriedly brought news about Luong Tianvu to Nyum Tia after learning he had gone to pick up his lunchbox. The coffee in her hand cooled slightly, as Nyum Tio hadn't anticipated this. The forensic team had extracted DNA from teeth. They confirmed that among the 5 bodies, one was Luong Tianvu and another was Tren Nam. The other 2 were also employees of Tianwan, but the last one had no data in the gene bank and no AI reported any missing relatives. Currently, the police lacked manpower to investigate and verify the identities of the deceased. But they confirmed this was a murder case, as bullets were still lodged inside the bodies. Moreover, Trun Nam's corpse showed signs of torture. He had many stab wounds. Num Tio lifted the white cloth and was startled. She thought to herself. She didn't know what kind of demon Luong Tianvu had crossed to end up so badly, nor whether the target was only Luong Tianvu, or the entire Thien Nuon company. If it was the former, tonight was worth cracking open 2 bottles of red wine to celebrate. But if it was the latter, then even she was in danger. Before returning to the farm, Li Tianyin set aside some money to buy mini explosive bombs, but these weren't for him, they were for old Nam. He still wanted to avenge his son, even if it cost him his old life. Li Tianyin sighed, then implanted a mini bomb under the skin at the back of old Nam's neck, although they had erased all traces. If they wanted, Thien Nuon could still track them down. Li Tianyin couldn't help but warn old Nam not to let Tio Tien's tragedy happen again. Old Nam nodded. He didn't want to detonate the bomb himself, but it was just a precaution. Then the two returned to the farm together. At this time, Li Ham was having the robot Tio Bach operate the excavator, mainly to dispose of the bodies of the Tien Nuon people who had come snooping around. When caught by Li Tianyin earlier, she innocently lied that she was just playing in the dirt, but several hands were sticking out from the pile of earth. Li Tianyin only needed to look to know the truth. Li Ham and Tio Bach obediently lined up to be scolded. Li Ham, tears welling up, said she did it because she was afraid her brother didn't need her anymore. Li Tianyin laughed absurdly. Why would I not need Ham Ham? But Ham Ham hurt someone, she stammered. No matter what mistakes you make, I'll bear them with you. Besides, I'm glad to see Ham Ham knows how to protect herself now. Li Tianyin carefully wiped her tears. Indeed, he was glad that at just 6 years old, Li Ham dared to stand up to the bad guys. He always told her never to harm others, but also never to let others harm her. Old Nam stood nearby feeling a headache. These two siblings sure had violent streaks. Times really have changed. Looks like you'll have to adapt well. Li Tianran asked Li Han some questions, then realized that the girl saw strangers invading the farm, glowing with a red light, which made her dislike them. That's why Li Han ordered the robots to mark them. Han Han hates seeing red, it feels suffocating. Old Nam stood aside, not understanding a thing, and Li Tianran was also puzzled. He kept pressing Li Han to see if she could perceive colors from other AIs. Li Han nodded. She saw a calming blue around her brother, a friendly green around Little Black, and Old Nam had a grayish-blue hue. Little Tian used to be blue, but then turned red. Ordinary passers-by only appeared gray. Li Tianran discovered that everyone glowing red had once harbored ill intent toward Li Han. Could the girl be a player too? Seeing this, Li Tianran hurriedly asked her, Han Han, besides seeing different colors, do you see anything else, like letters or numbers? Li Han shook her head. She started seeing human colors about a week ago, right after the apocalypse began, but she didn't see the system. Then, this might be an ability she gained after eating radiation-resistant vegetables. Li Tianran smiled ambitiously. Apparently, crops bought from the system have a high chance of mutation. He and Li Han had only eaten radiation-proof food for a few days, yet he got a physical boost. And Li Han even developed the power to perceive others' emotions. Green means closeness. Blue means calm and familiarity. Gray is indifference, and red is hostility. In other words, Li Han now functions like a humanoid reconnaissance machine. The digital ability Li Tianran gained after becoming a player is the true eye, which can see through the truth. So Li Han now possesses the eye of good and evil. This thrilled him. Han Han, your ability is really useful. So, can you help me from now on? Li Han asked happily. Of course, if you see red AI, you must report it to me. You're my most powerful ally. After this was settled, Li Tianran, as usual, went to cook. During the meal, he casually told Li Han that Old Nam would move in with them. Although he didn't fully understand the situation, Old Nam would do whatever Li Tianran said, so Old Nam lives with us. But where will little Tian stay? Old Nam blushed at Li Han's innocent question. He vaguely replied that little Tian was atoning in another world. Unexpectedly, Li Han understood and exclaimed, looks like those red-colored people who want to bully Big Brother won't last long. Which AI dares to bully Big Brother and Little Black? I'll have Little White mark them all, Li Tianran chuckled. It seemed that after getting those two robots, this little demon had become much more aggressive. As for Old Nam, he had decided that, since his life was already miserable, as long as he could help his son get revenge, even if he had to be Li Tianran's watchdog, he willingly accepted. The scene shifted to the house of an old man with silver hair. On the TV, information about the death toll after the apocalypse was being broadcast. Shortly after, a young man arrived. He was Bok King Yan, a researcher from headquarters, and also the son of that old man. Nam Tu had just sent a new report. Everyone knew that Luang Tianvu had kicked the bucket. The old man looked regretful. Because after all, that Luang guy was really good at making money. But what caught the old man's attention more was that the military police command had just captured a mutated monster. Level 5, while the highest level, the headquarters of their corporation was researching, was only level 3. Moreover, it was artificially created by the research lab's intervention, the old man believed. Humanity's science and technology still aren't advanced enough to keep up with nature's evolution. He wanted Bok King Yan to take over the research lab at Teen Nuon Company. Nam Tu had uncovered a secret. Regarding Luang Tianvu's research, although ruthless, it used quite a bit of interesting technology. Kid, use it combined with what we already have. We must extract the V-virus as soon as possible, then return to Teen Nuon Company. Nam Tio was still working hard to investigate the cause of Luang Tianvu's death. Based on previous records, everything seemed normal. It appeared he only died within the last 2 days, but the records from those 2 days were deleted by Luang Tianvu himself. So right now she couldn't find any clues. If it's too difficult, just skip it. Nam Tu decided she had to make a choice. The location for the new research institute was set. She also had to personally pick up the new person in charge, Bok King Yan. Their first meeting went smoothly, except that Bok King Yan brought along an assistant named Dai Kue, a man twice his size. Bok King Yan wasn't dizzy or anything. He looked fierce, more like a bodyguard than an assistant. The first thing Bok King Yan wanted to do, after arriving in Nam City, was to check out the site for the new research institute. Nam Tia naturally didn't refuse. Conveniently, she had just found a few suitable spots in the outskirts. Then, at the farm, Li Tianyin was preparing to raise fish. Instead of just growing vegetables all the time, there were quite a few types of fish for him to choose from. Even tuna, an extremely expensive food, before they didn't dare to eat it. Now it only costs 500 points in the system. After deciding, Li Tianyin took Li Ham and Old Nam out to an empty plot on the farm. He drew a big circle, then asked Tu Bok to drive the excavator and dig it into a pond, while idly playing with Tu Hok. Old Nam suddenly noticed it had grown many times bigger. Before he came to help at Li Tianhin's farm, Tu Hok was only knee-high, but now it was thigh-high. Li Tianyin found it strange. Tu Hok had reached maturity. Logically, it shouldn't grow anymore. But today, Old Nam's words really made him pay attention. Tu Hok had grown this big. If it mutated, it would be a big threat. But since Tu Bok's accident, he had handled all the mutated plants on the farm. Maybe Tu-Hak like Li Ham evolved after eating radiation-resistant crops, but still, it's worth mentioning. Li Tianyin felt he should keep a closer eye on Tu-Hak rather than the robot. Before Tu-Bach could finish digging a few times, the system notified that visitors had arrived. This time, 2 men and 1 woman, threat level 8. They were the Bach Kin Ngon group, although Nam Tu had taken him to quite a few places to check out potential new lab locations. Bach Kin Ngon was more interested in Li Tianyin's farm. Nam Te felt this man was far from ordinary. Even though he always wore a smiling face, he was actually very difficult to talk to. He didn't even bother to pay attention to the carefully selected spots she had chosen. After waiting so long with no AI opening the door, Bach Kin Ngon told Dai Q to knock again. But before he could knock, Li Tianyin came out. "What do you guys want? Are you the owner here? We have something to discuss. Could you open the door for us?" Bach Kin Nan put on his friendliest expression and spoke. But Li Tianyin flatly refused. "Say what you need to say here. I'm busy." His tone was a bit harsh. This upset Nam Tu somewhat, but Bach Kin Ngon understood that in these chaotic times, it was normal for Li Tianyin to be unfriendly to strangers. To save time, Nam Tu pulled out a business card and introduced herself, then got straight to the point that they wanted to buy Li Tianyin's farm. He could name his price. Hearing the name Thian Wan Company made Li Tianyin wary. Had they already investigated something about this farm? Whether you want to pay in cash, supplies, or something else, we can accommodate. And if you don't have another place to live, we can offer you a discounted apartment in the city center. Nam Tu's offer was objectively a steal, but she didn't expect Li Tianyin to once again flatly refuse. She wanted to press further. But he was blunt. "No need. I only want to live in this rural area. Even if you offer me mountains of gold and silver, I'll refuse." Before Nam Tu could say more, Dai Kui angrily slammed hard on the gate. "Don't be so ungrateful." The system immediately issued a warning. The farm gate was under level 2 attack. Li Tianyin quickly ordered the system not to retaliate, but he was quite intrigued by this big guy. He just threw a casual punch and already triggered the system alert. Dai Q Bach Kin Ngon, usually calm, suddenly shouted loudly. As Dai Kue turned around, he got slapped hard by Bach Kin Ngon. "Have you forgotten everything I taught you? If you keep acting reckless like this, go back to where you came from." Nam Tio held her breath. She didn't expect Bach Kin Ngon to have this side. Dai Kui dared not argue and just bowed his head apologetically. Bach Kin Ngon brushed his hands off, then turned to Li Tianyin, quickly restoring his usual friendly demeanor. "Ignorant subordinates are hard to teach. Please don't take it personally. I don't care about that guy coming here." Li Tianyin pointed directly at Dai Kui. Though he didn't know what he planned to do, Dai Kui stepped forward. When he was within range, Li Tianyin threw a punch through the farm gate bars. Dai Kui was knocked to his knees by the punch, coughing violently. "You punched my farm gate. I punched you back once. Let's call it a draw. If there's nothing else, please go ahead." Seeing Bachkin Din frown was like watching him write a few words on his face. "This guy is really interesting. Looks like I was too abrupt. Sorry for bothering you." Bachkin Ngon quickly scribbled his phone number on a scrap of paper and handed it to Li Tianyin. Nyum Tio thought that with his rude attitude, he definitely wouldn't accept the note, but unexpectedly, Li Tianyin reached out and took it. After they left, Li Tianyin kept tracking every move inside the car, because the punch he threw at Dai Kui carried something called a winged bird beast, kind of like a GPS, although it's unclear whether Tianwan's people came by accident or on purpose. Keeping an eye on them wouldn't hurt. Li Tianyin estimated that there were only about 10 days left until the second phase of the apocalypse system Manhwa's destruction season. Now that the crop production area was stable, and the fishery zone had started yielding, he needed to develop the livestock area too. After all, the frozen meat was almost gone. Even so, that night they feasted on lamb hot pot until full. Old Nam looked worried. He felt the land could no longer support farming. If they kept eating and drinking like this, they'd quickly starve to death. Li Tianyin decided to share part of his secret with him, that the food on his farm wasn't ordinary, and long-term consumption could cause changes in the body. For example, him, in the middle of winter, not feeling cold at all, wearing only short sleeves, and even developing supernatural abilities. Speaking of which, Li Tianyin was actually looking forward to the changes old Nam might undergo. But he seemed skeptical about what Li Tianyin said, as if it were some sci-fi movie. "Well, you're not wrong. Isn't this apocalypse system Manhwa disaster just sci-fi becoming reality?" Li Tianyin thought that in the current monster mutation survival situation, having supernatural powers wasn't that strange. Instead of seeing it as a disaster, he believed it was better to view it as an evolution. Old Nam was still unclear about what Li Thian had been saying. He then said he didn't really need to know all the details. Old Nam quickly changed the subject and asked who the people who stopped by today were. Li Thian didn't hide it, and directly said they were from Thian. Old Nam's expression immediately changed, and he snapped the chopsticks in his hand. Boss Tio Li, even a useless old man like me can become stronger with the farm's food. Old Nam's shoulders trembled non-stop, clearly suppressing the pain and hatred after losing his child. That's right, Li Thian smiled, meaningfully looked up, exhaled deeply, and said he understood. After the meal, Li Thian told the two to go to bed first, then rode his motorcycle to follow the trail of the winged bird beast. According to the GPS info, the target was currently in the Harmony Villa area, which was Nyum Tio's house. Today, she left Bach Kin Gon and Dai Kui there to stay overnight. After finishing her arrangements, Nyum Tio returned to her room. The fierce wind bird still followed her closely without leaving her side. The faint buzzing sound it made annoyed Nyum Tio. Such a nuisance, especially in this cold weather. Why are there still mosquitoes? Nyum Tio went upstairs to shower and relieve stress, then stood in front of the mirror. She admired her own beauty. The fierce wind bird stayed right by her. She wondered if Li Thian was sneaking a peek. Sneaking a look while the beauty was showering. No way. The sound of the windbird flying made Nyum Tio grind her teeth in frustration. Not mosquitoes, the sound was more like a beetle's wings. She decided to open the window to see if it would fly out. With that, Nyum Tio went to open the window. Then she stuck her head out to breathe in the fresh night air, but just chillin'. Before 2 seconds passed, Nyum Tio suddenly sensed something was wrong. Li Thian was actually hanging on her window like Spider-Man. Before Nyum Tio could react, Li Thian covered her mouth. At the same time he rushed into her room, she silently cursed the useless security guards who were just for show outside. Li Thian pinned her to the ground. The strength difference was so huge that Nyum Tio couldn't move. I'll let you go, but no screaming, got it? Better not try anything, or I'll show you my knife, he warned. What's faster in the end, her safety or his? Nyum Tio turned pale with fear. Li Thian really did let her go. Nyum Tio pointed to the cabinet by the bed and said her money, jewelry, and gold were all his if he didn't hurt her. Then she definitely wouldn't report to the police. Seeing Nyum Tio cooperate like that, Li Thian found it a bit ridiculous. Too bad I didn't come here today to steal this profit, he said, while countless scenarios popped into Nyum Tio's head. Then her face gradually flushed red like a ripe tomato. Nyum Tio used all her vocabulary to curse Li Thian mercilessly. Pervert, you lecherous bastard. I have HIV. If you touch me, you'll get infected. What era is this that you're still thinking about this? I will. Li Thian couldn't take it anymore and silenced Nyum Tio by locking her mouth with 2 fingers to stop her from talking too much. Cut to the chase, Li Thian asked. Did Nyum Tio send someone to kill Luong Thianvu? If not, why hasn't the culprit been found after so long? Of course he knew Nyum Tio wasn't involved, but only by asking this could he probe for the truth. Have they investigated me yet? Nyum Tio struggled to break free from Li Thian's hold. Her expression immediately turned wary. Are you with Luong Thianvu? Mr. Luong treated me very well. He died unexpectedly. I want to avenge him. I heard you're still investigating Mr. Luong's death. Hand over all the information. I want to take a look. Li Thian fabricated a story that was too fitting. Li Nyum Tio immediately believed him. She revealed that she was still cooperating with the police to investigate the case. But the clues were too limited, so the culprit's identity couldn't be confirmed in such a short time. Li Thian couldn't escape his role as the overacting interrogator. He continued to feign suspicion. Nyum Tio is the culprit. Because after Luong Thianvu's demise, she immediately took his place. Nyum Tio was so furious at being framed, she foamed at the mouth. She strained her neck to argue that she had no deep grudge with Luong Thianvu. If she was so ruthless just for the CEO position, that's just too unreasonable. Besides, in this southern city, the number of people Luong Thianvu has made enemies with is countless. If someone takes advantage of the chaos and sends him to the afterlife, it wouldn't be surprising at all. Li Thian silently let out a sound of acknowledgement. This woman's reasoning was sharp. She wasn't as dumb as she seemed. I don't believe you haven't found any suspicious targets yet. You keep pushing Nyum Tio for answers, but there really isn't a single suspect. He destroyed all the documents related to his recent actions. Now I don't even know what happened before he died. He even had dealings with NPCs, so how am I supposed to identify any suspects? Nyum Tio was so anxious that she spilled all her worries. Hearing this, Li Thian finally let out a silent sigh of relief. Looks like Luong Thianvu wanted to snatch the profits from the antidote, so he left no clues behind. But that actually works in your favor. Just then, footsteps and a nanny's anxious calls came from outside. Li Nian immediately knocked Num Tio unconscious and quickly left. It turned out the nanny discovered the alarm system had been disabled. That's why she hurriedly brought Dai Kui here to break down the door. After the door was smashed open, they found Num Tio lying flat on the ground. Dai Kui immediately rushed to the window, but he didn't see anything. Li Nian had already landed safely, muttering non-stop. That scar-faced monster really messed things up. Let's get out of here. Sneaking into a woman's room at midnight is just too damn rude. At that moment, a man's voice rang out, startling Li Nian. It was Bach Qin Ingon. He didn't understand how the guy found him. Clearly, when he left no trace, even when stepping on the gravity sensor on the window. I ordered Dai Kui to block the main door. If you don't want to face us, you'll have to escape through the window. Li Nian silently observed his opponent, his mind razor-sharp. Definitely not an ordinary person. But even so, he only saw Bach Qin Gon as a powerless beansprout. How could he possibly stop him? Li Nian charged forward and threw a thunderous punch, but Bach Qin Ngon calmly blocked it with his knee. Li Nian immediately staggered back. A mischievous smile appeared on Bach Qin Ngon's face. Interesting. Arm bones can't compare to knee bones. By my calculations, your forearm bones should have broken from that punch with a force of over 700 pounds. Your wrist joint should be crushed too. But right now, you don't show any signs of injury. Bach Qin Gon kept smiling. But facing that ambiguous smile, Li Nian's wrist began to tremble. He never expected his powerful punch to be stopped so easily. Although his body functions surpassed normal humans, Bach Qin Gon seemed to be a master as well. Very tough to deal with. At that moment, screams started echoing. Li Nian knew the others had arrived. He turned to leave, but Bach Qin Gon charged forward. I told you don't even think about leaving today. But once someone wants to leave, it's hard to stop them. Bach Qin Nan was caught off guard when Li Nian threw a handful of chili powder into his eyes. He fell to the ground in pain, his vision completely gone. A refined man like Bach Qin Nan, even he had to curse, calling Li Nian a bastard. Yet Li Nian took it as a compliment. Then he calmly climbed over the wall and left. Just as he left, the big Kui group rushed over. Mr. Bach, are you all right? Bach Qin Han covered his eyes, breathing heavily. Despite the pain today, he realized that Li Nian had almost surpassed the limits of a normal human. This was truly a perfect experimental subject. Researcher Bach swore that one day he would find Li Nian and bring him back, locking him in his laboratory. I'm fine, just need to wash my eyes, Mr. Nam. Really, we're not so sure about that. Could you go check on her after washing your eyes? Bach Qin Nan went to Nam's room, examined carefully, and concluded she only fainted from Li Nian hitting her neck. Then he prescribed some tonic medicine and told the nanny to give it to Nam when she woke up. She was anxious, wanting to call the police. But Bach Qin Nan advised against making a big deal out of it. After all, Nam City was already chaotic, and nothing had been stolen at home yet. But just as he finished speaking, a subordinate reported that something was indeed missing. Bach Qin Han's room was missing a hard drive. Hearing this, his expression darkened. Is it the gray hard drive plugged into the computer? Yes, that's the one. That hard drive was now in Li Nian's pocket. After returning home, he immediately disconnected his network cable to prevent any AI from tracing his IP. Then he plugged that hard drive into his computer to check it out. Instantly, a file named Experiment Records appeared on his screen. Only then did Li Nian realize Bach Qin Han was a researcher. The file began with Bach Qin Han's personal notes. Although these have caused countless lives to be lost, I still believe that radioactive food is not simply a disaster they bring, but offers benefits far beyond what we imagine. It is evolution. Those who died did so because they took the wrong path in evolution. I am certain I can find the right path, even if it costs many more lives. I will pave the way for humanity to enter a higher civilization. Then humans will no longer fear incurable diseases, no longer suffer premature birth from congenital defects, nor be seen as weak burdens. Our health will rival that of tigers, even gods. Lifespans will extend beyond 300 years. Whether this path leads to glory or hell, I will continue. Bach Qin Nan's heart burned like fire at this moment. He used the main drive to check, but received no signal from the secondary drive. However, inside were only old data. Bach Qin Nan believed outsiders would find it hard to understand even if they read it, but Bach Qin Nan, he was worried that outsiders might figure out his true purpose for coming to Nam City if they read those notes. Dai Q found it extremely strange that they were attacked as soon as they arrived in Nam City. He suspected that this was orchestrated by the people from Group 7. I still don't know who exactly Group 7 refers to, But Bak Kin-non believed that if it really was Group 7 planning to act, they wouldn't send a rookie like that. He sensed Li Tiannian's extraordinary physique, but his skills were still too weak. Meanwhile, Li Tiannian was still intently reading those notes. Bak Kin-nengon's notes were written on November 21, 2025, in terms of ideas. Bak Kin-nengon and Li Tiannian shared quite a few similar thoughts. But the line, even if it costs many more lives, really made him uncomfortable. At the same time, Li Tiannian also guessed that the Wan Corporation had started applying this experiment to human bodies. Li Tiannian's farming had made some initial progress. On the farm, a new batch of piglets, baby rabbits, and chicks appeared. Li Ham couldn't resist the cuteness of these furry creatures, which made Little Black jealous. Li Ham was engrossed playing with a rabbit, almost making it foam at the mouth. Li Tiannian seriously warned her not to play around with food like that. Namtia, So's face turned pale. Why call it food? It's so cute, how can you eat it? I want to raise it for spicy rabbit meat. Li Tiannian was just reading the first spell. Li Ham's expression changed. Pork ribs, steamed chicken, smoked pork, Hainan chicken, rice, spicy rabbit, stew, ginger pepper, rabbit rice. Li Tiannian listed a series of dishes. Li Ham's saliva uncontrollably dripped down. She was a meat lover. It was really impossible to resist the appeal of those dishes, although the baby rabbit was adorable. In the end, Li Ham chose to return it to the pen. She even obeyed her brother's advice after cooking eat it all, without leaving a single bite. That was the greatest respect for food. As Li Tiannian took the rabbit from his sister, the system announced, "A rare demon product has appeared in the cornfield." Without hesitation, he sent Li Ham off to play first, then he headed out to the cornfield. When he arrived, he caught a rare albino ear of corn. The system explained this was an extremely rare mutation product created from radioactive corn, with a probability of 1 in 100,000. Its effect was to put the eater into a berserk state, boosting strength, speed, and neural reaction by 10 times for 30 seconds. Li Tiannian's eyes immediately lit up. This was exactly like Popeye's spinach. He reached out to pluck the tiny ear of corn, greedily hoping for more. There might be others, but Li Tiannian searched the entire cornfield and found none left. As expected, it was a rare item. Only luck could bring it when he sowed the seeds. The system gave no further information about any special items. This could be considered a bit of good fortune. Surprised that the exhausting days passed in a flash, Li Tiannian wanted to increase the planting density a bit more. That way, the chance of rare products appearing would also increase. But that thought was immediately dismissed by him, because doing so would also reduce the quality and yield of the crops, and it would create a large number of young plants that would die prematurely. Without any accumulated points, they'd be left with nothing but to scrape the earth for food. He should keep working honestly and stop thinking about those petty tricks. Meanwhile, Namtu had already regained consciousness. She was carefully reviewing the surveillance footage when Li Tiannian barged into the house. Namtu clenched her teeth, cursing him as a bastard, and swore she would definitely find him and tear him into 100 pieces. She was also pissed off at her own security guards spending so much money on them, and they couldn't even catch a single thief. In fact, even the military and police didn't have enough manpower to investigate anymore. It seemed that to uncover the attacker's identity, normal methods just wouldn't cut it anymore. That day, Nam Tu had found a very light-colored hair stuck on her shirt, clearly not hers, so it must have belonged to the man who attacked her. That night, Nam Tu gripped the Ziploc bag containing the hair tightly, silently vowing to take action soon. So she went to Bak Kin-gon first, telling him she had found another farm not far from Li Tiannian's, a perfect spot for him to build a new research institute. But Bak Kin-gon was sharp. He immediately realized Nam Tu's intentions were more complicated than that. Nam Tu didn't hide anything. Bak Kin-non was a biological research expert, so she believed he could definitely compare DNA. Honestly, it's a bit embarrassing, but I want to ask for your help to find someone in Nam City whose DNA matches this hair. Bak Kin-non thought comparing this DNA sample against everyone in Nam City was like searching for a needle in a haystack, not to mention how long it would take. Nearly 100,000 samples, just collecting DNA from all Nam City citizens, was already a massive project. This person is very important to her. Nam Tio looked a bit awkward when asked so suddenly. She forced a smile and said it wasn't that important. Actually, I just want to find the thug who attacked me that day. If it's too difficult, then forget it. But coincidentally, Bak Kin-gon was also looking for that person. Hearing that he got so excited, he stood up straight. Actually, it's not that hard, Miss Nam Tu. I'm willing to help you with this. Nam Tio didn't understand why he suddenly got so enthusiastic, but whatever the reason, as long as her goal was met, that was already great. Although Li Tiannin's appearance distracted Bak Qin Engan a bit, the important task of continuing to operate the laboratory couldn't be neglected. Today, they continued injecting new experimental drugs into animals. Both muscle density and cellular activity increased rapidly. Normal eyes transformed into complex compound eyes, looking terrifying. Then the creatures went into a frenzy, completely losing control. Their 34th V-beta virus experiment failed. The monster wildly shattered the glass cage. But Bak Qin Nungan wasn't worried or scared because it hadn't truly escaped the cage yet before the kill order was already issued. 15 years ago, when Bai Jingyan was still a child, he had an older brother. But this brother only saw him as a filthy hybrid, even helping other kids mercilessly bully Bai Jingyan. He was slammed headfirst into a fountain, the kids gleefully enjoying his struggle while his brother just stood there watching. They seemed to be having a blast. Hey, don't hit him in the face, after all he shares the Bai family name. It'd be a big problem if the patriarch found out. Bai Jingyan was soaked to the bone, struggling to breathe, tears streaming down his face. He helplessly begged his brother to stop, but this only made him hate him more. Don't call me your brother, you filthy hybrid. A blow like thunder struck down. Bai Jingyan jolted awake in panic, drenched in sweat, wrapped in warm blankets and soft bedding. There was no Bai Jingyan, no cruel kids, and no soaking in water. But it seemed that his miserable childhood had cast a psychological shadow weighing heavily on his shoulders. Bai Jingyan was always obsessed with defeating his brother. Now the stability of the VI extraction system he researched was increasing steadily. Bai Jingyan believed the day he would trample Bai Jingming underfoot was not far off. 19 days had passed since Earth underwent its mutation event. On the VI news broadcast, reporters announced that a large number of mutated animal corpses were discovered in Nanchi Town, Japan. They were piled up here, and their origin remains unknown. The Epidemic Prevention Agency is currently handling these bodies. Xiao He and Li Han listened attentively. This felt very new to Li Tianran. Wow, no cartoons today, just watching the news. Li Han pouted in dissatisfaction. Don't treat me like a kid. I care about the world too, Han said. Han couldn't always lean on her brother. Li Tianran didn't know whether to be happy or sad since the mutation outbreak. Especially after Xiao Bai passed away, Li Han suddenly turned into a little old lady. Now she could even see others' evil intentions. She had helped him a lot, but Li Han still felt it wasn't enough. She wanted to grow up fast and help Li Tianran even more. Look, even Xiao He was growing stronger. I want to be like him, she said recently. Xiao He had indeed grown as big as a wolf dog. Li Tianran had been watching him for a while. He didn't see any signs of violent tendencies. Maybe the physical changes were simply benefits from the radiation-proof food, so he could feel somewhat relieved. Li Tianran told Li Han to play with Xiao He while he and Lao Nan continued digging the pond. After playing for an hour, she started feeling hungry. Her eyes suddenly caught a wooden box on the table containing 2 super god-level growth seeds. Li Han thought they were just simple nuts, didn't think much, gave one seed to Xiao He, and shoved the other into her mouth. But it was too bitter. As soon as Li Han put it in her mouth, she had to spit it out. Poor Xiao He swallowed the seed whole when it was pressed into his mouth. Somehow after eating it, Xiao He felt very sleepy. It curled up into a ball and fell into a deep sleep. That night, old Nam was awakened by loud creaking noises. He shone his flashlight. The entire house was in disarray, and in the corner was a filthy black heap trembling uncontrollably. Seeing old Nam approach, it turned its head. Oh my god, it was Little Black, but it seemed to have mutated. Little Black lunged to attack old Nam. A 7-tone scream echoed across the farm. Old Nam was protecting the crops from radiation. His reflexes were a bit sharper. When Little Black pounced, he quickly dodged to the side and escaped. Only then did old Nam realize in shock that the large creature before him was Little Black. It had truly become a wolf, but its appearance didn't resemble the usual mutated beasts. After the missed pounce, Little Black still growled, but it seemed it wasn't trying to attack old Nam anymore. He sat up straight and tried to calm it down a bit. Little Black, it's me, Uncle Nam. Little Black, are you hungry? Don't be scared. I'll get you some food. Old Nam kept calling Little Black's name, and it actually showed some reaction. He tried reaching out to pet it gently. But Little Black barked wildly. Then it smashed the glass door and dashed out into the garden, heading toward the farm gate. Old Nam anxiously tried to stop it. That gate was fully electrified. He feared it would get electrocuted to death. But unexpectedly, Little Black lightly sprang over the towering wall. Old Nam was stunned. At that moment, Li Tianran, still in pajamas, rushed outside. Uncle Nam, what's going on? Boss Little Lee, we're in big trouble. Little Black suddenly went berserk and jumped outside. Li Tianran's heart skipped a beat, but old Nam said, Little Black isn't like the mutated beasts outside, proof is it still recognizes him. Right after Li Han hurried out, she woke up to find Little Black wasn't sleeping beside her anymore. Hearing the barking just now, Li Han rushed out without even putting on her shoes. She was worried. Little Black might become like Little White before. Li Tianran gently comforted Li Han not to overthink it. Has Little Black eaten anything strange recently? No. Han obediently replied. She only ate food from the farm. She thought for a moment, finally stammered out that this afternoon, she and Little Black had secretly eaten 2 nuts from the box on the table. As soon as Li Han finished speaking, Li Tianran immediately knew they were super divine level growth seeds. Little Black must have evolved, but he didn't know why it went crazy. Li Tianran cursed silently. He asked the system, do those seeds have side effects that cause creatures to lose control? But for some reason the system didn't respond at all. Maybe it was snoring loudly. No way around it. Li Tianran had no choice but to tell Li Han and old Nam to go back to sleep first. He would go fetch Little Black. At that moment, Little Black was running like the wind through the forest. It felt its throat burning dry as if on fire. It truly wanted to devour and tear apart the throat of any creature, but it couldn't harm humans. Otherwise, it would never be able to return to its young master, Li Ham. The sudden appearance of the little black wolf in the night forest quickly caught the attention of a stranger. He believed it was the divine beast from the prophecy, and if he could bring it back, it would surely please the Heavenly Hand. What exactly the Heavenly Hand is will be revealed later. Meanwhile, Li Tianyan was dispatching several fierce windbird warriors to scout the surrounding area, but none of them found anything. It seemed the little black wolf was no longer in this area. He grew increasingly anxious. If the military police discovered it, it would definitely be eliminated. Suddenly, rustling sounds came from behind. Li Tianhan turned around cautiously. It was an old woman wearing a white cloak adorned with lotus flower patterns. "Young man, are you looking for a black-furred wolf? Is it your pet?" she asked. Li Tiannan nodded but remained on guard. He found this old lady quite strange. The old woman continued, "Young man, do you know the truth behind this disaster?" Li Tianhan didn't care. He only cared about where his dog was. But before he could speak, the old lady cut him off with a commanding tone, completely unlike a typical elderly person. "It's because humans have committed too many evil deeds angering the gods, so the gods are punishing the world." The woman took a deep breath and continued. She believed this apocalypse would not end until all humanity was wiped out, and if Li Tianhan wanted to save himself, he had to join them in sincerely repenting to the gods. Li Tianhan was speechless. Turns out it was a new kind of scam disguised as a cult. He pretended to cooperate and asked what the joining conditions were. The old woman immediately explained. Like a professional multi-level marketer, their group welcomed everyone with different ranks, and the membership fees varied by rank. 3,300,000 yuan. The higher the rank, the closer the path to the gods. The chance of salvation was also higher. Li Tiannan found it increasingly irritating, the 21st century. And yet there were still people using such superstitious nonsense to deceive others. Since you are the master of the divine beast, you can join just by bringing the divine beast. No fee required, the old woman concluded. After all, they were craving the presence of the little black wolf. Li Tiannan sighed. He didn't want to waste any more time with this old woman. If she had time, she should learn more about brainwashing techniques first, before trying to scam people. The old woman immediately got annoyed, thinking Li Tianhan was disrespectful to the gods. But he had lost all patience and started to rev the engine. If truly sincere faith in the gods could save people, then no one would have to lie down, counting their last breaths. He believed the only one who could save him was himself. The woman watched Li Tiannan's figure fade away, muttering, "Those who don't believe in the gods will forever suffer in hell, and you are the lowest kind of vermin." Li Tianhan suddenly remembered the first time he met the little black wolf. It was when he stopped his vehicle by the roadside to smoke. Suddenly rustling sounds came from the bushes. Li Tianyan curiously stepped forward to check the scene, seeing a large dog covered in blood lying motionless. It must have been hit by a car while trying to cross the road, but what caught his attention more was a puppy still trying to nurse from its mother. Judging by the look, the mother dog had been dead for several days, yet this puppy was still alive. Truly resilient, Li Tianyan liked it immediately because they were both orphans without parents. So he decided to give it a home. Returning to reality, Little Black was now aggressively biting the leg of a researcher named Xiao Wu. Its fierce demeanor scared all the others. They hurried to report to Bai Jingyan. The story was that earlier Xiao Wu had gone into the forest to smoke and accidentally flicked ash onto Little Black. After that it became aggressive and attacked him. The guy was really bold, daring to flick ash onto a mutated beast. No, that's not right. It was actually hiding in the bushes and Xiao Wu was just unlucky. Bai Jingyan was very surprised to hear this. A mutated beast hiding in the bushes sounded absurd. Other mutated monsters usually wandered aimlessly and attacked humans randomly, but Little Black was hiding in the bushes. Moreover, judging by how it attacked, it only bit Xiao Wu's leg and didn't seem intent on killing him. Also, it seemed aware of the danger since the opponent had a gun. That's why it tried to use Xiao Wu as a hostage. Bai Jingyan believed this must be a high-level mutated beast because it was frighteningly intelligent. He was extremely excited. If they could capture Little Black for research, it would surely improve the stability of the VI extract system. This could very well be the perfect mutated creature Bai Jingyan had been searching for. Thinking this, he immediately ordered all his staff to capture Little Black alive before the military and police arrived. He allowed his subordinates to use tranquilizers and sedatives but insisted on capturing it alive. Bai Jingyan was also equipped with a tranquilizer gun. He reminded his team to aim carefully, only targeting the limbs. Then Bai Jingyan himself attacked Little Black. As soon as the human fired, it released Xiao Wu, quickly dodging to avoid the tranquilizer dart. But Bai Jingyan and his men kept pulling the trigger. Little Black was hit by a dart. It growled angrily and then turned to flee. Bai Jingyan immediately ordered a manhunt and chased Little Black deeper into the forest. Meanwhile, the second-ranked fierce wind bird also reported to Li Tianyin that it had found footprints of a large creature 700 meters southeast. Li Tianyin immediately sped towards the location. Upon arrival, he found footprints along with a large bloodstain, and the blood was still fresh, indicating not much time had passed. Having been together for years, Li Tianyin was certain this was Little Black, though he didn't know what had happened or what caused such severe injuries. Bai Jingyan sat in the off-road vehicle, chasing Little Black. The speed and muscle movements of the creature made him increasingly excited. Bai Jingyan's desire to capture it grew stronger, and by now, Li Tianyin had also arrived. Using the fierce wind bird, he could see the entire scene ahead, including Little Black and the people pursuing it. As the face of the white glasses appeared, Li Tianyin clenched his teeth in anger, especially since he was still holding a gun in his hand. That crazy tech freak won't be taking my Little Black for research, no way. Li Tianyin urgently pulled out the white tang corn from his gear stash. The sound of gunfire kept echoing nearby. Little Black was still running desperately. White Glasses ordered 2 vehicles to flank and corner it from both sides. They were trying to herd Little Black toward the old factory ahead. As the 2 jeeps split to encircle Little Black, seemed to anticipate their plan. It sped up and kicked off a large tree trunk to gain momentum, then directly leapt onto the roof of a car, causing the driver to lose control immediately. The driver got fiercely bitten on the arm by Little Black and dragged out. Another man in the opposite vehicle hurriedly raised his gun. 2 bullets were fired at this speed. Maybe Little Black wouldn't dodge in time, but at that moment, just as the 2 bullets were about to hit Little Black's head, something unbelievable happened. A person caught both bullets bare-handed for it. This was the extraordinary ability that Ngo Bach Tong granted Li Tianyin within 30 seconds. His speed surpassed even the bullets, leaving the White Glasses crew unable to see him, but Little Black recognized it by his aura. This was its master. The effect time of Ngo Bach Tong had 26 seconds left. Li Tianyin used his altar-like speed. Sweeping around the 3 jeeps, wherever he passed, the crew were knocked down like bowling pins. White Glasses couldn't even see Li Tianyin due to his extreme speed. He could only rely on the continuous white streak moving in the air to squeeze the trigger. But the bullet just left the barrel was caught mid-air, and White Glasses got hit by a sneaky hook punch. This time his teeth and gums really took a hit. Only 2 seconds of effect time remained. Li Tianyin suddenly felt his body become very strange. He hurriedly landed and then retreated far from the White Glasses crew. Could it be that the white tongue corn had side effects? Only 1 second of effect time left. Li Tianyin's whole body trembled uncontrollably. White Glasses was also struggling to get up. He still managed to partially block Li Tianyin's punch earlier. Otherwise, the consequence would definitely be losing his life here. White Glasses felt the opponent was too dangerous. He had to eliminate him immediately. Trembling, he pulled out his gun and aimed at Li Tianyin. But as he pulled the trigger, Little Black fiercely charged forward. Its sharp teeth precisely sank into the neck of the white researcher. Unfortunately, the bullet had already left the barrel and hit Li Tianyin's shoulder. Li Tianyin took the full brunt of that copper bullet, When he groggily woke up, he was lying on Little Black's back. The dog was panting heavily. Its whole body kept trembling. Seeing Li Tianyan awake, Little Black then tossed its master aside. After that, its body couldn't hold on any longer. It collapsed directly onto the ground. Li Tianyan suppressed the pain in his shoulder and staggered forward. Little Black's condition looked grim. Drool kept dripping from the corner of its mouth. Little Black's eyes were bloodshot. Li Tianyan anxiously kept calling the system. But no response came from deep inside Little Black's body. Its DNA was already starting to break down and mutate. This all seemed to start when its sharp teeth sank deep into Bok Kin Nong's neck. Then out of nowhere, numerous white silk threads suddenly appeared, wrapping around the frail body of Little Black, forming a large cocoon. Even though Li Tianyan was in a hurry, he couldn't break through this cocoon. At the same time, Bok King Nan was being rushed to the hospital, but his condition was far from hopeful. His facial skull was severely damaged, his head was traumatized, compressing the blood vessels in his brain, especially the fatal wound on his neck. The doctors said it was a miracle he had held on this long. The staff were extremely tense, constantly explaining the situation to Nam Tu, but she wasn't listening at all. To Nam Tu, the duty of these staff members was to risk their lives to protect Bok Kin Nangon's safety. Yet now, he was lying on the bed, his fate uncertain. She had to figure out how to report this back to the old master at headquarters. I'm truly sorry. Researcher Bok was too eager to capture that mutated monster, so he led a team to set out ahead. By the time our reinforcements arrived, the entire team had suffered heavy losses. Only Dai Q survived. Namte refused to accept these words and asked her subordinates if anyone had seen the face of the attacker, but they really hadn't. The only thing they caught was a blue-white glow, faster than lightning. Hearing this, Nam Tu's blood boiled. What kind of nonsense was this? If you're going to lie, at least make it believable. Don't try to fool me. The subordinates were so scared they almost collapsed. They didn't dare lie even a word, but Nam General just assumed they were all talking nonsense. At that moment, Bok Kin Hingon's heartbeat began to slow. New hemorrhagic spots appeared in his brain. Nam Tie immediately called for the doctor to come save him. But the lead doctor shook his head. There's no point anymore, Miss Nam. Mr. Bok can't be saved. At his final moment, ask him if he has anything he wants to say. Nam Tu seemed shattered. Just standing there, unable to do anything. The doctor gave Bok Kin Nangon one last booster shot. He struggled to open his eyes and immediately whispered for Dai Q. Dai Qa rushed to his bedside, but to everyone's surprise, Bok Kin Nangon ordered him to inject the experimental virus they had been researching. At first, Dai Qa was horrified. Then he shook his head vigorously. That virus was still in development, and so far, no successful human trials had been recorded. He feared that if they injected it now, even Bok Kin Ngon's intact human body would be lost forever. But Bok Kin Ngon seemed very determined. To him, dying like this or turning into a monster, and then dying, made no difference. That's why he wanted to take a gamble, holding on to hope that maybe he would become the first human to successfully survive the experiment. Seeing his boss so resolute, Dai Qa had no choice. He ordered his men to prepare a 5 milliliter virus injection, along with a choke bomb as a precaution. Bok Kin Nangon lay on the hospital bed, ready to receive the virus injection. At that moment, a call came from the Bok family, but Bok Kin Nangon refused to answer. It's just a coincidence that we share the same bloodline. This isn't my home. Don't listen. Let's get started. The doctor sighed, then slowly started administering the IV. Bok Kin Nangon's body reacted violently. He convulsed uncontrollably, twisting on the hospital bed. The veins on his face bulged out. His eyes were bloodshot. This was a stark contrast to Bok Kin Nangon's usual refined and polite demeanor. He let out a painful scream. Namto covered his mouth, terrified so much that even Dai Qa dared not look at him now. Meanwhile, Li Tianyan ignored his own wounds and sat guarding the cocoon. After a while, a reaction finally occurred. The inside of the cocoon began to glow. Then, it started cracking layer by layer. When Tu Bok stepped out, it shocked Li Tianyan. He was speechless. Tu Hak had transformed into a werewolf, walking on 2 legs, his body monstrously muscular.